Hey guys, it's Renee from Glenrowan, God Squad in Australia, with today's reflection. Today's reflection for me is Luke 11, the first 4 verses. So I'll read that. One day Jesus was praying in a certain place. When he finished, one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray, just as John taught his disciples." He said to them, "When you pray, say, 'Father, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come. Give us each day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, for we also forgive everyone who sins against us. And lead us not into temptation." That's a pretty plain prayer. That's a pretty to the point prayer. That's practical. When I was a young fella, I grew up in the church, heard all of the language that people use when they pray. And then when I got a little older, things got difficult for me. And it got to the point where I needed an answer from God. I needed to hear from God. I needed direction. A friend of mine convinced me that we needed to pray. And I was properly scared that I would offend God and, not get an answer. Last thing you want to do is piss God off. So I prayed a long prayer, used all the words that I'd been taught to use, used all the phrases I'd heard people say, was very careful to allow God the last word on everything, but prayed for a long time. Part of the way through this prayer, I felt this friend of mine looking at me, with my eyes closed and whatnot. I could feel him looking at me. So I looked up and he was sitting there cross-armed, grumpy. And I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "Do you even know what you want?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You're talking around and round in circles. You're using language you don't understand. You're not asking a straight question." He said, "If you came into my shed and asked to borrow something in the way that you're sitting in front of God now, I'd tell you to bugger off." So I took a big risk. I closed my eyes again and I asked God a really straight question, really short, really blunt. "Lord, this is what I need. I don't know how to make it happen." Within days, he answered my prayer. It was the first time I recognised, perhaps, maybe not the first time, that was a big time when I recognised that God's a very practical God. And when we look at this thing that Jesus said to his disciples, it's very simple, very practical. The first thing we need to do is recognise who God is, our Father. Next, we need to honour him because he deserves that. And we need to ask for God's will to happen around about us. Then he allows us to ask for things for ourselves. What do we need from day to day? Forgive us for the stupid things we do. And in that, we're encouraged to forgive people who do things against us. And please, Lord, keep us out of trouble. That's what my faith's about. It's simple. My faith is about a relationship with somebody who cares about me. It's not about fancy words. It's not about how long I can speak. It's not about whether I've got the right theological perspective to have God's ear. I do my best to be a friend of God. That's what it's about. I would encourage you to read the Gospels. Find out who Jesus is. Cheers.